Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Uncover California. Well, we are seeing a stark difference between Republican policy and Democrat policy and law and order. President Trump sent in the National Guard to Washington, D.C. And guess what? Zero crime, no murders, no carjackings. It works when you enforce the law. Democrat states are not welcoming President Trump like they should. Chicago should be begging for help. California should be begging for help. And sadly, we just had Ukrainian refugee Irina Zaratuska murdered on a light rail train. Media, why did you ignore this story? Is she the wrong color for you? Those social media leftists out there flying the Ukrainian flag, where's your outrage? We have to have law and order in America. So, on today's show, we have two gubernatorial candidates. Our first guest, Che On, pastor, businessman, is going to tell us all about his campaign and his vision for California. Our following guest, combat veteran David Serpa, will join us to tell us his mission-focused plan for California. We have a lot of people running for this seat, and I think it's important that you guys get to know all of them. So today, we're going to spend our time on two of them. So everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back. General Michael Flynn, you guys, I need you to go buy his new books. The Role of the Church, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And on the General Flynn store, you can find all sorts of great things to get you prepared to be equipped with truth and move forward. Fight, fight, fight. If you guys could support the show, use generalflynn.com/REF/Lori Mills, and you'll help uncover California while equipping yourself for the battle ahead. Local politics has national impact. Go General. Welcome back. So, Che On, running for governor, is going to join us today. Let me show you a little bit more about him.
In recent years, Californians have seen a disturbing trend. Families struggling, businesses closing, and leaders who talk about justice while turning a blind eye to lawlessness. We pay the highest taxes in the nation. Billions have been spent on homelessness, yet the crisis has grown by 40%. Our state budget swung from a massive surplus to a staggering deficit. These aren't problems of resources. These are problems of integrity. And integrity is exactly what defines Che On. Born in South Korea after the war, his father brought their family to America in search of freedom and opportunity. With little money and little English, they carried only faith and determination. That same spirit shaped Che's life of service. From planting a small church in Pasadena to leading a global movement spanning 70 nations, Che On has spent over 40 years helping families, defending freedom, and training leaders. When the government shut churches during the pandemic, he stood up for religious liberty, taking the fight all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and winning a landmark case. Integrity means keeping promises. It means accountability in spending. It means leadership that serves people, not political interests. With integrity, California can be renewed, families free to thrive, businesses flourishing, and justice fair for all. Our state stands at a crossroads. Will we continue down a path of broken promises or rise to restore integrity in leadership? The choice is ours. The time is now.
Shayon, welcome to Uncover California.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be with you, Lori. Thank you.
So you're running for governor of California, a state that has just been corrupted by darkness. And you're a pastor, you're a businessman. Tell everybody a little bit about your journey and how you ended up here now running for governor of California.
Well, I'm here by the grace of God because my dad is a Baptist. He went home to be with Lord, first Korean Baptist pastor in North America, and that was the ticket to give us a visa to come. I came when I was 5 years old, and I always have to add I came legally and became a citizen of the United States. This is a great country. But I didn't walk with the Lord until I was 17. My parents trained me. They shared the gospel with me, but I didn't really have an encounter with the Lord until I was 17. And long story short, I got involved in drugs at the age of 15, thrown in jail at the age of 15, dropped out of high school at the age of 17, which is the unpardonable sin for an Asian immigrant, because the whole purpose is to get a good education and live the American dream. But I dropped out of school. I was so messed up on drugs, and but my parents just continued to pray for me. And then on May 25th, I made a quality decision to repent of my sins, and I walked out a Deep Purple concert at the Baltimore Civic Center. And when I walked out to give my life to the Lord, I was instantly delivered from drug addiction, and I've been drug-free for 52 years. Now, I didn't know at that time we were experiencing a revival called the Jesus Revolution or the Jesus People Movement, but that's when I gave my life to the Lord. And then a year later, God called me to be a pastor. I've been now a pastor for 46 years, married 46 years. We have 4 wonderful children. 2 of them are also pastors, and then 10 grandchildren, the cutest grandkids in the world. So anyway, that's a little brief of a story about my life.
Well, I'm going to argue on that one. I got a really cute grandson too, so we'll have to put them
Sure.
together.
Amen.
You know, we have stuff in common, and I didn't know this before. You know, I went through a very rough childhood. I got involved in drugs and things that I shouldn't have. And I was actually in Newport Beach, and some guys had invited us to a party, and they started witnessing to us. And I ended up at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, under Pastor Chuck Smith and Greg Laurie and Odin Fong and Chuck Missler, and was born again. And that's where my journey began. So it's interesting. I think God uses those dark places in our lives. So when we are born again, those that are going through those things, we can relate to, and hopefully we can mentor and bring into the hope of light, which we now stand in.
Well, not only that, but practically, as I'm running for governor, I believe that I could help the homeless situation. You know, we spend $5 billion a year, $24 billion the last 5 years, and homelessness has increased by 40%. It goes all the way back 11 years ago when we passed a Proposition 47, and 47 basically made felony into misdemeanors. And people who should have gone to prison are now on the streets as drug addicts, because if you were on fentanyl, heroin before it would be a fentanyl, but now it's a misdemeanor. And they also emptied out the penitentiaries for arresting them on what is now a misdemeanor. And so our streets are filled with drug addicts, and that's what we have today. 75% of people that are homeless or alcoholics or drug addicts, and many of them are mentally ill as a result of that. And so they're demonized and they need help. But I believe the answer is not more government money, but is to help government shift the ministry to the homeless to private sector, nonprofit organization, because Calvary Chapel and ministries like my ministry and ministries like Dream Center that focus specifically on drug addicts and the homeless are much more, data shows they're much more successful. And so I, as governor, I want to take it off of the government budget line and give that money to nonprofit organizations and empower them. And of course, those who do commit felony, because we passed unanimously Proposition 36 to make those misdemeanors, felonies again. But unfortunately, Governor Newsom hasn't given a single cent. As governor, I'm in charge of the budget, and I will budget accordingly to make sure that Proposition 36 is enforced, as well as money being directed to the private sector, nonprofit organization. And I believe that this will help solve most of the problem that we have with the homeless. So my background helps me in that.
Now, isn't that interesting that you say that? Because I agree with you. The people of California voted for Proposition 36. I was born in Santa Monica. I've lived in this state my whole life, except moving away for a little while and coming back. Santa Monica used to be a tourist attraction. It was a golden area. And now, due to Democrat policy, instead of leading people to the light, they gave them crack pipes and needles and made injection sites, enabling the drug addiction. And Gavin Newsom literally has ripped off the fire victims in the Palisades, enabled the drug addicts. We passed Prop 36, and as you said, not one penny has gone to that yet. Now he wants to use $250 million of our taxpayer dollars to do Prop 50 to gerrymander the state even further. What are your thoughts on Prop 50?
Oh, it's absolutely evil. When you think about it, he's using our tax dollars for his own campaign. He's positioning himself to run in 2020. And this is corruption. This is evil. And I think the people, even the Democrats, are tired because we set up a commission with Democrats and Republicans. It's a commission to discuss gerrymandering and how we should. And he's totally ignoring the due process of we, the people, that voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger, that had that commission set up. And he's just being a totalitarian dictator, like a Marxist ruler. And I just feel like he's so narcissistic. It's all about him and what he wants to do, and he's using our tax dollars. He doesn't care about the people of California. When I become governor, I'm going to be governor for all the people of California, because as a pastor, I can't discriminate on Democrats, Republicans, or just only those who, are more on fire for Jesus. I love everyone in my church, and I will love and serve everyone in California.
And let's look at that for a moment, because you're absolutely right in the sense I would like to see the state doged. The amount of money that is made on the problems that we face in this state. You look at the homeless industrial complex. You look at the fire industrial complex. And you've got bureaucrats that are unelected making a minimum of $700,000 a year. Why would they want to fix the mess? All their buddies are making money. And I would almost guarantee that a lot of this money is laundered back into Democrat campaigns. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. Look at the bullet train. 2008, we passed a bill to have a speed train from San Francisco to LA. $40 billion was allocated for it. We've had the bills increased to almost $100 billion, they say, and we have nothing to show for it. I am going to doge that. I am going to audit that, as well as the homeless thing. It's an industry. We've increased by 40% in the last 5 years because people are lining their pockets. They don't want it to go away, because if it goes away, they lose their jobs, basically. And it's so corrupt. And so it is an industry of madness. It is insanity. And I'm going to stop the insanity and bring common sense and biblical wisdom to our government.
And we sit here now, and the people of the Palisades and the people of Altadena, they had this Fire Aid concert, and they're still fundraising off this Fire Aid concert, yet not one penny has gone to the fire victims. And what we're seeing now is foreign entities are buying up this land.
Well, not only that, but Newsom has already said that they're going to use the Pacific Palisades for high-density homes for the poor. This is crazy, because we're talking about generational wealth passed to people, and he's ripping them off, and they don't have an opportunity to rebuild because insurance prices. We need, if there's any time a government needs to step in to say, okay, we need to regulate the insurance prices so it's not off the roof, so these people can rebuild, and to make all the regulations they have in building a new home again, to put a pause on that so that we can restore what was lost by government mismanagement. Can I say that? Newsom
Yes.
defunded the fire department by 140 million in 2024. Karen Bass, the mayor, by 17 million for LA County. And so that to me is absolutely irresponsible, knowing that we are in a hotspot for fire. It's not, you don't need a PhD from Caltech to know that especially with the policies we have with the environment, we can't do control burning because it's emitting carbon dioxide, is polluting the air. And so ridiculous. We've done that for hundreds of years. And these are firefighters who do the control burning. They're going to do it responsibly, and they're going to take care of the environment. The other thing that we used to do is we had a lumber industry, and just making lumber for construction. These companies profit, they pay their taxes, but what they are doing is cleaning the brush. And we stopped doing that again because of extreme environmental policy. So when I'm governor, one of the things I'm going to do is, because there's certain laws I have to do through legislation, but there's certain things I am going to do by executive order because it's an emergency. Anytime there's an emergency, I could do an executive order. And I feel right now, for example, energy crisis, 2 refineries leaving California, us not opening up the wells in 4 years when Biden shut it down, and Newsom, of course, is capitulating because it costs so much. We're importing now 80% and of our petroleum. And the thing is that this impacts poor people, the middle class. We're now 30%. Here's the richest state. 30% of Californians are living in poverty because of the high extreme gas tax, the electricity tax, all the high taxes. The cost of living here has just skyrocketed because crude oil, there's a direct corresponding with crude oil and food index and inflation. And because we're paying the highest, and of course, that makes sense because food is brought by trucks that need diesel fuel. And we're just, it's the spirit of stupid on this government. And I hate to say this, but we need to have a change of the guards. And I just want to encourage those. It's not Democrat or Republican. This is an issue of what's best for California. Is common sense. It's hurting we the people. And we need to get the government, smaller government, get them off of our backs with all this regulation, hurting businesses, and we need to get back to we the people. It's all about the people of California, not Newsom and the elites.
And I have to say to the Democrats, that vote blue no matter what. What's it going to take for you guys to wake up? You are not being served by this government. And they'll play identity politics, call us all racist, call us all Nazis, yet they don't perform for you. After the Woolsey fire, the insurance companies started to leave because people were uninsured, and the insurance commissioner put a cap on that. Even now, in 2014, the people of California passed Proposition 1 that was supposed to build water storage. They gave billions of dollars of your taxpayer money to build water storage. Yet with the Palisades fire, it wasn't just the water not coming down from up north. It was the fact we had empty reservoirs here. And it's my understanding they're getting ready to empty another reservoir. And we have had the Santa Ana winds my entire life. We did used to do prescribed burns, and we will always have Santa Ana winds. It is complete negligence from the government that you serve. And if Che becomes your governor, he is going to need an assembly members and Senate members. We have to break the supermajority in California just to get debate again. What are your thoughts about the legislature and everything that's going on?
Amen. And I think that's what you're saying is absolutely crucial. But I also have hope for California because I do believe the Democrats are waking up. We see Trump won by 41% in 2024. That means all these Democrats shifted sides. 10 counties went red, first time since Reagan. So there is hope here. And what's happening is that we've registered over 1 million Democrats to become Republicans since the election. So something's going on here in California. Like there was a survey taken that 70% of the Democratic moms are against this transgender nonsense being shoved down their kids' throat. And they have nothing to say because, again, if you disagree, you find out your child's going through a transition or wants his or her name pronoun to be changed, they will take child custody because that's child abuse. It's transphobic. The ideology is causing absolutely no rights for parents, and I'm going to restore parental rights as a father and a grandfather. That's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to defund I'm going to just mandate. I could do this with an executive order. Why is this an emergency? Because trans kids are committing suicide at a double the rate of normal teenager. It is madness. And so we're causing all this confusion with our ideology that's been shoved down the kid's throat. And so enough of DEI, enough of transgenderism. I'm just going to make America, once we were the best school system. We're number one in the country. And right now, I heard everything from the 48th out of 58 states. It is so rock bottom. And I'm going to make the school system the best again. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it by offering charter school and homeschool and private school money if they will have their kids there to give school choice against the parents, because what that would do will send a message to the teachers union, we're losing money and we got to get our act together. This is a free market. We need to have a free market competition that they're going to fight for their children's best interests. And so what I want to do is I want to give at least a tax break for homeschoolers. But actually, if they are homeschooling, they're already paying taxes for their school kids' education. I want to give them a rebate of that.
That's a great idea. You know, a lot of the Democrats and the school boards are saying now that enrollment is down. And they're stating it's because ICE is coming into the schools, which isn't happening. School enrollment is going down because during COVID, the one blessing we had is we got to see what you were teaching our children. I look at these kids that are confused about whatever. And it seems to me that this whole transgender movement is more of a trend than anything else. And kids are not old enough to make life-altering decisions like taking a drug Lupron, which suspends their hormone growth and literally chemically castrates them. This is evil personified. So to the school boards out there, you want to know why enrollment's down? We don't want our children taught this nonsense.
Exactly.
Now
this is why 70% of Democratic moms agree with what you said. And by the way, Laurie, this is the first time talking with you, and I'm so grateful that we have a conservative media personnel that knows the issues and could articulate it as well as you're doing.
Thank you.
This needs to grow and go viral all throughout California because people need to hear your heart and my heart, what the issues are. And when Democrats hear this, they say, you know what, I agree. Regardless of party, I agree. I don't want transgenderism to be shoved down my kid's throat. I want to have a say in this. If that's being taught, I want a notification by the teacher. Right now, our law is that we don't have to notify them. We just passed SB 1955. And it's just crazy that we can't be told what our kids are going. Look, you can't even take an aspirin in high school without parental notification and parental parenting. And now we're giving transition hormonal blockers. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous.
And I'm very grateful for Donald Trump to do a nationwide ban. I can tell you they are going city by cities, these NGOs, and passing this thing called the CARE policy. And in cities, they are making cities now sanctuary states to transition children. And one thing I have to say to you parents, if your child says that They think they're born in the wrong body. Don't affirm that. You cannot affirm that. It's no different than your child having anorexia nervosa and you telling them, yeah, you're fat. Go throw up your food. Don't eat.
Yeah. No,
It,
the Bible says we have to speak the truth in love, and then it says in John 8:32, the truth will set them free. If you lie, if you capitulate, if you just say yes, maybe that's true. You may be actually a boy trapped in a woman's body, girl's body. That is not the truth, and the truth has to be shared so that from a parent say, "Oh wow, okay, I'm okay. I'm just a tomboy." Look, I have three daughters. All of them were tomboys. It's something people go through in puberty. They wanted to play football with me and my son. And so today it would be, oh, you're trans. You're trans. You're actually a male. It's so evil what's going on with our society and with the school system. It's demonic. And I know Satan is behind it because he is after children. He knows the only way that it's going to hurt God's heart is attacking children because Jesus loves children. When the disciples were told that some of the kids wanted to come and have him bless them, they shooed them away. They were just typical adults. And Jesus said, do not hinder them from coming to me. This is in Matthew chapter 19, for the kingdom belongs to them. And so he loves. And then conversing, Matthew 18, he says this, and this is a warning to all the teachers union and all those who are shoving this ideology. Whoever calls one of these little ones in the context of children, he talks about it's better for them to hang a millstone around their neck and to be judged in this lifetime. They're going to be judged in the life to come. They're going to go to hell. But what's going to happen is that God says, if you attack one of my little ones, you will be judged in this lifetime.
and rightly so. Rightly so. It reminds me when I was a teenager growing up and I was a tomboy. Every kid at 12, 13 years old, you are awkward in your body. You are. You're becoming from a child to an adult. And sorry, it's probably when you look the worst your entire life. It's just the way it is. Now, there's a lot of NGOs in our state, Pastor On, that are pushing these ideologies. What would you do as governor to take the power from a lot of these NGOs?
Okay, well, that's a great question, Laura, because what I am going to do as someone in charge of the budget, let's just say the abortion, Proposition 1 in 2023, January 1st, we codified abortion to our state constitution. Well, that is law, and unless I have a state assembly, state senate with majority or pro-life, or I can't overturn that, but I can do this. I can defund Planned Parenthood. I don't have to give money to them. And I can fund crisis pregnancy centers. I can fund prenatal care, delivery for the poor. We'll pay for that. If you won't abort your baby, we'll take care of your adoption costs, lowered it so that middle class people can adopt. We're killing a baby every minute, and yet it's 70,000 to adopt a child. It's so ridiculous. And so I can handle the funding. So I will defund the NGOs that are pushing. They won't get any government money. They would have to raise in the private sector. But there's no way I'm going to fund evil with this government on my watch, because I fear God. I'm going to be accountable to Jesus and the bills I support. And I'll be vetoing left and right, and that's why we do need some Christians to run, or people who are conservative to run for state assembly and state senate, because they could overturn my veto unless I have some members who would say, no, we're not going to vote and we're going to support the governor on this veto.
Okay, so when these NGOs are going to cities and Board of Supervisors meetings and they're demanding millions of taxpayer dollars to fund their activism, for instance, right now we have this going on with people that literally are breaking federal law by doxing ICE. They have call centers to create riots and go push back. In my county alone, there were 14 trafficked children found, and I have covered the border for the last 5 years. I've talked to whistleblowers, and just experts on the subject. Joe Biden lost 350,000 children into our country that were trafficked. These kids were the lucky ones. They were labor trafficked. But we know that many have been sex trafficked and even worse, organ harvested. As governor, what could you do as far as, for instance, SB 54, which doesn't allow ICE to go to the prisons, and it does not allow local law enforcement to work with federal agents. What could you do as governor to shut the nonsense down and help us find these children?
Well, first of all, the sanctuary status is totally unconstitutional. I know we have amendment, the 10th Amendment giving us state rights, but it has to be in alignment with the federal government. And open borders is absolutely against the Constitution. We have borders because we have a nation and they're breaking the law. And so I'm going to remove the sanctuary status for immigrants. I'm going to remove the sanctuary status for abortion, transgenderism. I don't want a single tax dollar to go into that. Now, I know I'm going to have to fight that because they're going to sue me for that, but I feel it's an emergency situation, so be it. See, I sued Governor Newsom in 2020 when he locked down the church. I was a pastor with our network of churches. I was leading 150 churches, still am, a little more now. And we were all part of the plaintiff. Now, ours was against Newsom specifically in California. And I lost in the lower courts. I lost in the appeals court, but by God's grace, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and I won 6-3. I won $1.3 million settlement, which went to our attorneys because they were serving me pro bono. And so I took a stand then. I'm going to take a stand now. And if I get sued, I get sued. I already took a bullet because they were going to put me in jail for 1 year. They were fining me $4.5 million. This is the Marxist cancel culture. This is what they try to do to Trump. I mean, if you had all the penalty sentences that he had lost, it would be over 900 years in jail and billions of dollars in fines. It's just the Marxist playbook. And I experienced that on a micro level. But the point I want to make is that I took a bullet already for this state. I'll do it again. I'm going to lay down my life to see righteousness and justice, love and truth be restored in our society.
Amen. You know, my pastor, Pastor Rob McCoy, was right there with you.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend. I have
Yeah.
a deep love and respect for Rob. He's the best.
He is, and I'm honored. You know, he's kind of stepped aside and let Pastor Micah take over, and Micah's a fabulous Bible teacher. So I think God's got really big plans for Rob as well. Well, we are out of time already. I can't believe it. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can donate to your campaign, where they can sign up to volunteer, and where they can find you on social media.
Yes, well, yes, my first ask is pray for me. I really, as a pastor, and I am so committed to prayer that we've been having early morning prayer meetings at 5:30 for the last 30 years. So it's not just saying this to be political about this. I really covet your prayers. Secondly, give, because it's going to take an enormous amount of money. I'm asking you to go to Che 4 California. .com is very simple. CHE 4 CA for California.com, and you'll go to my website. And I pray that you pray about giving the max, because I need millions, because I have a short time and I have to use media. Like, thank God for you that you're allowing me to be on your podcast. But obviously, I need to buy some television time as well, because I'm not an unknown. People who know me, even at the Republican convention, I had so many people said, "You're the real deal. You're the full package, and we're going to stand and vote for you." And so I was just so blessed to see all these people who didn't know me, and once they heard me, said, "We're going to vote for you and stand with you." And so I'm the only one that signed the Family First as a candidate. I'm pro-life, pro-traditional marriage. I am pro-freedom. Religious freedom. Of course, I sue the government for locking down, and I am free market and pro-Israel. So that's my thing. So just go to that website. And then at the website, you can volunteer. We need volunteers to help us and make phone calls, etc. And so I would love for you to be engaged in what we're able to do. And so that's just go there, and then everything else will fall into place.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I will be praying for you for sure. And we'll have you back on down the road and see how things are going.
Absolutely. God
Uh,
bless you. Thank you so much, Lori.
God bless you too. Okay, everybody, stay tuned. Our next guest is another candidate running for governor of California, combat veteran David Serpa. He's not backing down. We'll be right back. Okay, guys, I have great news. The MAGA Mall has new merch. The new Trump collection is over the top. Look at my new hat. FAFO, you know what that means. So if you want one of these hats or one of the other great hats that they have for merchandise, go to themagamall.com and use promo code CALI, CALI, and get your FAFO hat. Or you can get a Trump 2028 hat and trigger the left. It's a great time here at Uncover California. David Serpa, combat veteran, a friend of mine, is also running for California governor. Here is a little clip of him, and then we'll bring him in.
My name is David Serpa, and I'm here to earn your vote. Not with empty promises, but with a plan rooted in truth. This campaign begins with 3 simple principles. The promise, I will always tell you the truth and back it up with action. The purpose, to serve Californians with a battle-tested courage. And the plan, to run this state like a business with integrity, accountability, and results for all Californians. You'll always know where I stand. And if you're tired of broken systems and politics as usual, you're not alone. And you're not powerless. This is a revolution of common sense and compassion, and it starts with a promise, it's powered with a purpose, and it's delivered through the plan. Let's build the California that we deserve.
Marine Corps and combat veteran David Serpa, welcome to Uncover California.
It's always good to see you, Lori.
I'm so excited to have you back because the last time you were on, you were actually running for Congress, but you're stepping it up. You're going for governor.
That's correct. You know, I ran for governor and in fact, ran for Congress. In the beginning of this, I ran for lieutenant governor. And I ended up actually changing my paperwork and deciding to run for governor because I felt like that torch needed to be carried a little bit better than it's being carried currently.
Now, we do have a lot of people running for governor. Why did you decide to do this instead of lieutenant governor?
You know, the most important thing for me is that we build a team that can flip California. I'm not so worried about, who's the top dog and who's got the biggest ego and who can save us. I'm trying to build that dream team. I'm trying to, play Oakland A's Moneyball until it's LA Showtime. And right now, I feel like there's a lot of really great people that are interested in politics, and that's a good thing. Let's find the right seat for them. Maybe it's Senate, maybe it's Assembly, maybe it's Congress, maybe they should run for city council or school board, or, maybe they would be great in an appointed position, like, the Department of Water and Agriculture, or as the head of the Veteran Affairs Committee. The governor comes in and they appoint over 500 positions, day one. 78 about require Senate confirmations, but there's a huge opportunity in the executive branch to lead, to legislate, to actually run this state the way that it's been needing to be ran for 30, 40 years, because it's lacked leadership and it's lacked accountability and it's lacked some organization for a long time.
And sometimes I feel like this state has been run by an unelected bureaucracy that is making a fortune on our tax dollars and laundering money back into Democrat campaigns. For instance, this fire industrial complex where we've had the Fire Aid concert. We voted for water storage in 2014, and yet no storage was built. What would you do with this endless bureaucracy? What would be your fix to that?
This team approach is what needs to happen. What we need a good forensic audit. And a lot of people say Doge California. That's actually a job. It is the job of the controller to audit government spending, find out how our money has been being spent. And what we need is we need somebody to go back. And I would love, look, there's a few different people that I've been talking to about running for controller. And all three of them would be fantastic and qualified in order to lead this audit. But we need to find the lottery money that was supposed to save our schools. We need to find out where our money that we voted for water infrastructure in 2014, $7 billion, the $24 billion in homelessness, the $30 billion for the bullet train. There's so much money that is just sent out. And then we find out through an audit that the money is missing. We find out through the lack of results and the lack of accountability that our money is being spent inappropriately. But what the controller then needs to do, because they're not a prosecuting force, they need to refer their findings to the attorney general for prosecution, because we find that without any sort of teeth, without repercussions, crime is recommitted. It's incentivized. And so that's what we've had, but we've just had it happening through white collar crime, through our government. Because Lori, if you were missing $24 billion, you would go to federal prison immediately. They would lock you up. It would be no holds barred, and you would be doing serious time. But this has just become something that we expect out of our government, that they're not going to deliver, despite the fact that we continue to vote. And so it gets to feel like, oh, well, why are we voting? What's the point? And so people get disenchanted and disenfranchised and checked out. And, they're like, well, we can't vote our way out of this. And what I'm begging people to do is to not give up. Continue to fight an intellectual revolution. For 12 years before our forefathers ever picked up a rifle, they were picking up a pen. They were pamphleting. They were having conversations about taxes and representation and decentralization of government. So there's huge opportunities that we have to reinforce and reestablish our republic, the beautiful republic that we have that was given to us, but we have to preserve it. We have to exercise our states' rights. We have to get our government in check. And the best way for us to do it is from within.
And
we the people, we're the answer.
And we've got this supermajority in the state assembly and the state senate here that don't even debate with the Republican side. They turn off their mics. And then, I'm sorry, the attorney general that is currently in position here in California doesn't prosecute crime. And thank God for Bill Asaley, who's our U.S. attorney. But as far as control...
You're absolutely right. If I could touch on that for just a moment. In fact, Bill Asaley did a great job of bringing to attention the fact that they weren't even allowing debate to happen. What they were doing is they're just trying to strong arm these bills through. And then another gentleman that I was speaking to, Greg Abdosh, who's going to be running for assembly, or is running for assembly in, I think, District 45, he was telling me they just bring in all the bills, and then you've got, you're up against the weekend and you've got, 17,000 pages that you're going to read. And so none of it gets read, none of it gets debated. And Bill Asaley was bringing attention to the floor that, hey, we're not even debating this. And they took away his ability to debate, which is wild. And so you've got this supermajority. And what I'm saying is, if you have had a supermajority of representation, dear Democratic friends, why is this state not perfect? Why do we not have free health care for all? Well, that's because Governor Newsom didn't allow it to go to a vote when he knew that he had it. Why do we not have the best infrastructure in the world, the best paid teachers, the best education, the safest streets? Why are our prisons not devoid of criminals and everybody isn't, full of peace and love and kumbaya? And it's because they don't have all the answers. Obviously, they don't have the answers. So at some point or another, Democrats have to look at their party and they have to say, man, these guys might not have it. And then we as Republicans have to step to the floor and say, we've got solutions. And this is what it looks like. And for too long, we haven't had candidates willing to deliver the message, capable of delivering the message, or we're even really aware of what the message is because we're stuck in complaining mode.
Well, and I want solutions. That's what I want.
Absolutely.
I look at these bills that the Democrats are pushing through, and the thing is, they hide what they're doing. Proposition 50, for instance. we know that this gerrymander that Newsom's trying to pull off right now, we get 40% of the vote as Republicans in California, and we currently have about 17% of the voice. This would bring us down to about 4%. And everything that they're passing is to mutilate children, to traffic children. Things that we pass as the voters, they're not implementing. $250 million to go towards Proposition 15, yet Prop 36 that we all as California voters just passed, they haven't given one dime to. Talk about that.
Proposition 50, I actually think that it might end up being a golden gift from the Democrats. I think that they may have overplayed their hand. And what they did was they took a lot of these sweetheart Democratic districts that were D plus 27, D plus 40, D plus 20. And then they took some of these sweetheart Republican districts, which those existed, that were R plus 12 or R plus 7 or whatnot. And so they cut those all up in a way that gave them a bunch of D plus 5 to D plus 7 districts. Well, if you look at the way that California has been flipping in the last two election cycles, you look at the trends over the last 8 years, and the fact that we picked up 10 out of 12 of our House districts were majority Hispanic districts, and that we picked up, you look at the way that map continued to turn red. Well, what I'm telling Republicans is, you look at this as a gift. Vote no on Prop 50. Understand it's probably still going to pass whether or not we vote no on it or not, because we're outnumbered. But then what we do is we have an opportunity to usher in the new blood, the new generation of leaders. If we are intentional in this, give me an R plus 5 district. Lori, give me an R plus 7 district. I ran in a D plus 27 district. We closed that gap by 16%. We registered 49% new Republicans in the city of Paris, while the Democrats registered 8% new Democrats. We outperformed them by 41%, registered 9,000 new Republicans. And by the time that we were done, I lost by a little bit less than 11%. So give me a D plus 25 or a D plus 5, and I'll win that by 6 points. And I think that if we keep up on the trends and we bring in the new generation of leaders that are willing to take a principled stance, drain the entire swamp, we end up picking up congressional districts. We hold the House here in California, and which makes a lot more possible on a federal level. But then it helps us to flip these Assembly and Senate districts and the executive branch by getting on board with, hey, give us those redistricted districts. Give us those gerrymandered districts that are now D plus 5 and D plus 7, and let us put you to bed in them.
But will it? That's my concern. There's one district, they're actually drawing from the Central Valley like a pencil that balloons into the Golden Gate Bridge area. So they're going to flip that red district blue by the urbanization. We've also seen SB 9, where now in conservative areas, they're doing infill and high density, low income housing. Why are they doing that? Not because it's good for the people, but because they want to turn that area blue. And I even look at my city. I'm in the red city of Simi Valley, which is a conundrum in this area. Now they're trying to pull our district into Los Angeles, and we're Ventura County. So if they do pass this, I don't see how I'm going to have more of a voice when we're already gerrymandered. Let's not kid ourselves. And they're blaming Texas, yet I don't think Texas had done redistricting for a very long time. And we were just redistricted, 4 years ago?
Just happened. Yeah, I think in 2012, or excuse me, 2022.
Yeah.
You look at things like LA, you got 10 million people, 25% of the state's population. You look at a lot of the concentration of where people are living in coastal areas that typically are high Democratic areas. The whole inland part of the state where I grew up, and most people live, or not most people live, where a lot of people live, it's drastically different than the coastal regions. And so they don't end up having these districts that are representative of the people that live there. Instead, you have a position where, you're representatives are picking their voters instead of the voters picking their representatives. And so it is detrimental. But what I'm saying is they're going to do it anyway. And they're probably going to do it whether we get along with it or not, because right now we've become so tribalized that there's a lot of people that are willing to just go out and vote against Trump here in California just to stick it to him. And so I look at it and I say, well, then let's have a red wedding. Let's get rid of everybody. And I hope Democrats do the same thing by going after their old dogs, because we need a new generation of leaders. You can't have a new business with old thinkers, and you cannot solve problems at the same level of thinking, which created the problems in the first place. Just like you said, our districts have been gerrymandered for years. You look at Ken Calvert's current district, it looks like a W. You have these districts that go from the coast all the way down to the Mexico border, inland, and on. So they look ridiculous. I'm saying let's not be reactive, but let's get intentional. Let's start finding people to run in the assembly, in the Senate. Let's find out what's going to happen here in 2 months. But for the first time ever, I'm finding people who are running for Congress that I'm excited about, like really excited about. Lots of people. Amy Fan West is going to be running for Congress. Dennis Fiatosa is running for Congress. There's a lot of younger people in their 30s and 40s getting out there. There are people that I'm excited about that are running an assembly. And so if we can get people excited about running for office, it's a win. If we could get people engaged in finding people to run for office, it's a win. I just want people not to check out of the democratic process because we have a republic to save.
100%. When I ran for the assembly, I almost flipped this district with the Palisades. Being there. And that was before the fires. And funny enough, I ran on the fire danger. I ran on let's fill our reservoirs, let's do controlled burns. And now we're seeing things like this fire industrial complex where these people that have lost everything are being completely screwed. I'm just going to say it. They are. Foreign investors are buying their land and not one penny these fire victims. What is your take on that? And what would you do as governor to rectify this?
It's all by design, and it's very intentional. And so when you look at the way that it's by design, the water reservoirs that we had there weren't full. The giant white tanks that we have all over the state of California weren't full. And so we have 5 trillion gallons of water that spill out into the Delta, out into the Pacific. We do not retain 80% of our rainfall. And so the money's there, the ability's there. The desire isn't there from those on top because they want to dry out our farms. They want to set up these sort of situations where, people are facing danger because they took over the insurance industry with things like the California Fair Plan. And so one of the things that Steve Hilton wrote about in his book is there's only one of 2 ways that wood comes out of a forest. You either go in there and you extract the lumber and you harvest the lumber, or you burn it out. It either is going to burn at some point or another. And what he said is that the forests are now at a point to where they're about 75% more dense than they were 10 years ago because of the restrictions on the lumber industry here in California. I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas. I'm very familiar with logging and fire breaks and seasonal logging opportunities. I also watched when I was younger animals going through from one area to another to clean up the brush and the grounds. And that was an opportunity. And what we did was we stopped allowing people to do that. And then in addition to that, you have the so much water that can be saved here, not just for the agriculture, but for things like fighting fires. But we also have 15,000 structures, businesses, homes, churches that have burned to the ground that, right now, no one's letting them build. And the retardant has destroyed the soil. So we need to drop better retardant that's not going to destroy the soil. But that's something that now, looking back, of course, and they already knew that again. But that being said, we have 48 million acres of public land in the state of California. I do believe that we can sell off some of that, enough to make 5 new cities. I have a 5-city plan. It's part of my 17-point plan, 240-page business plan that I have that is going to make it possible for us to develop and build. But it will also bring us out of insolvency and allow us to handle some of our financial debts so that people can rebuild their homes and not lose, pieces of property that have been in their generations forever, And so there's a lot of opportunities, but giving people an opportunity to build again, I think would be huge. Right now, we don't hear people saying, "My grandpa built this house" anymore. It used to be that you could buy a housing from a Sears catalog, have it shipped out to you, and then you could build it yourself. And we have that again for the first time in 50, 60 years, our last real housing boom. And you have companies like Amazon, Tesla, Walmart, a lot of Chinese companies that are shipping, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom housing units with air conditioning units that just need to be connected to water and power for $15 to $20 to $30,000. So if we could free up more land that people could buy for, say, $30,000, you build your own 2-bedroom house, a starter house for $30,000 with one of these kits. All of a sudden, you have a house for $60,000 that you're not needing to go to a bank and get a 30-year loan for, with a high interest rate and high taxes and high insurance. You just checked the whole system by not buying an $800,000 house. Because at a 2% tax rate, an $800,000 house, that's $16,000 annually, versus a $60,000 house, that's $1,200 annually. And then we get beaten to death with our interest payments on these loans, to where you look at the mortgage payment and 1/3 of your mortgage payment is going to your interest. Another 1/3 of your interest payment is going to your taxes. You're lucky if you could find fire insurance. So the thing is we're built these debt cages. We're built a system of debt and interest and taxes, when biblically, if you look at it, whether you're looking at it from a Christian perspective, from Islam or from Judaism, interest is usury. It's making money on money. It was never supposed to be the point of our economic system. And so we need to start checking these systems by giving people more economic opportunity, because freedom is economic freedom. If you can build yourself a home, get debt free, you have a lot more freedom in your life, because you aren't living your life under the gun of being under constant worry that your home's going to be taken away from you.
Yeah, but we do need the infrastructure, water, power, all of those things.
Absolutely.
And we're watching right now our energy companies that do oil and crude oil and petroleums and everything leave our state. We watched a massive exodus in our state. What would you do as governor, A, to bring energy back, but B, bring some businesses back to California?
So first, I want to be forthright. The idea that energy isn't here is a lie. We actually have 600 active oil and gas permits on over 200,000 acres of land that's owned by the public. 90% of that is managed by the Bureau of Land Management. And so we have an opportunity to just tap into what is already here and to drill into, 30 years ago, we were refining and utilizing over 90% of our homegrown oil. We have some of the deepest oil reserves in the world. Kern County has deeper oil reserves than Texas. Alaska tapped into their oil. They're able to pay an oil dividend to their people despite not having income tax. And so the solutions are here. We can absolutely tap into our rich oil reserves. We can get oil, or we can get gasoline under $2 a gallon again by making getting involved in public energy. What we've done is we've subsidized private energy companies for far too long that have failed us, that have capitalized on scarcity instead of banking on abundance. What we should do is we should have public investment in energy for the uranium industry, for the oil industry, and for water. And then we start selling water and power to our water and power poor neighbors. They're not going to stop building cities in the desert, in Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Texas. And if we invested in desalination, about $2 billion per desalination plant, if we invested in decentralized micronuclear grids, again, about $2 to $3 billion for a decentralized micronuclear plant. we could be selling the excess, just like Israel did with their desalinization process. What they did was they invested in it in 2015, and almost immediately they were making a dividend. They were yielding a return because they were selling their water, selling their excess to their water poor neighbors.
Okay, so to back up, who is lying that we don't have energy? I know Exxon just said we're out of here. Who is causing these companies to leave the state?
Our executive branch. And so through the over regulation and denying people permits to drill and whatnot, they're pushing people out of business. But what's happened is for too long, the oil and gas companies have been in bed with our government, being subsidized by our government, to the tune of about $30 billion annually, plus the way that we subsidize wind and solar, plus the way that we subsidize uranium, despite the fact that we privatized uranium in 1994. And so what I'm saying is make oil and gas a public utility. Get California involved in drilling directly, because right now we pay about 50% on every gallon in taxes. Cut it in half right there off the bat. You no longer have $4.50 gas. You have gas that's $2.25 because you're not subsidizing an oil company up front and then paying the oil company again. And I'm sort of tired of the way that we as the public are told, oh, well, you need to subsidize these industries indefinitely while not getting an ROI. I'm grateful for the way that President Trump is starting to look at these industries and saying, hey, listen, we've been investing for a long time. And as a businessman and business people understand products, if I continue to invest while never getting a dividend, while never getting an ROI on my investment, then we're either going to stop investing and you're going to go under, or you're going to include us as part of your shareholders.
And I know that the California state legislature, every 6 months, it seems like they're putting a new tax on gas. I think right now we're
That's
paying
right.
like 80 cents a gallon in taxes on a gallon of gas. We're the highest tax state in the country when it comes to energy. And as you just said, we have the potential to be energy dominant.
That's right. 100%. And we could build a bridge to a rich nuclear future. And when people say things like, oh, well, nuclear energy isn't efficient, you got to get updated. The thing is at one point we had built over 60 nuclear power plants in less than 12 years in the 60s and 70s because we understood that nuclear was the future. So people say, well, there's nuclear waste. You could take all of the nuclear waste that's ever been created and put it on one football-sized field, 10 feet deep, and we would be covered. It's significantly less than the waste that there is in wind and solar. And so, and significantly more efficient. All of our aircraft carriers, all of our submarines run on uranium, nuclear power. But what we did was we took the uranium industry in 1994, we privatized all of it. And then we continued to subsidize it because they weren't doing what they needed to do. And then in 2014, our last uranium enrichment facility shut down. And people are saying, oh, Iran is enriching uranium. We should be worried. I'm worried that America isn't enriching uranium. I'm worried that America is getting dog walked on the world stage and that our uranium has to be enriched by China, 40% of our uranium, and by Russia, 30% of our uranium. I'm looking at the fact that we import our lithium through China and through Taiwan, and that we subsidize Taiwan's publicly owned manufacturing microchip facility, TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Microprocessing Center. And so we have bought this lie that we are supposed to privatize everything. Privatize nuclear energy. Sure, and then all you have is Palantir and Elon Musk and Apple, owning nuclear power facilities. I would rather the people who've been investing in nuclear energy for the last 60 years start to benefit from it. Nuclear energy is an abundant resource, just like our natural gas. We found a massive natural gas deposit. And then what did we do? The next year, we made natural gas stoves illegal. And so all of this is by design. And it would be very easy to get us on the right direction, but we've bastardized everything. What we need to have what President Trump is doing, which is state capitalism. States competing against other states, countries competing against other countries. Some people will call it socialism. And I say, okay, well, then get dog walked by Russia and by China and by Taiwan, because the Taiwanese invested 40% of the startup cost for the TSMC. And then do you know who's now funding the TSMC? We are. Through the CHIPS Act, we built the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company, its own manufacturing facility right here in America, subsidized through the CHIPS Act and the American people. And so at some point or another, we need to understand how dangerous it is to have all of our semiconductors and all of our lithium being controlled through Taiwan, when the regional dominance coming out of that area is China, and it's going to end up provoking World War III. We're lithium rich here in California. The Salton Sea is sitting on more lithium than we would ever need. And so it's a matter of national defense for us to get control of our own lithium. It's a matter of financial relevance for us to be able to get control of our lithium, because we can't build a smart car, a smartphone, defense, missiles. We can't build anything, laptops, computers, televisions, unless we start getting involved in the lithium industry.
Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. We are out of time already. That went super fast. But we'll have you back on again. It will never be your last time with me. So
I appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can donate to your campaign, where they can volunteer for your campaign, and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so check me out at Serpa for California. I'm on Instagram and X and, all of the things. I'm on TikTok and Facebook. And so go ahead and give me a look. Check me out at serpaforgovernor.com and donate if you would like. Right now, we're building massive infrastructure for the New Founders Movement, or what I like to call the Republican Regiment, where we're going to start getting volunteers organized into 5 battalions throughout the state of California, so that we can deliver California, flip this state in one election cycle, just like Texas did in 1994, and maybe see the next 20 to 30 years of Republican leadership here in California.
And where do they find you on social media?
Serpa for California.
Serpa for California. That's SERPA, folks. Thanks so much for coming in, David, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, Lori.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, we're going to look at California Controller. Herb Morgan is in this race, and he wants to get to everything financial in our state and hold people accountable that have abused their power. Also, we've got Dr. Stella on. She's got some great new products, and she's going to go through them with us. She was one of the frontline doctors during COVID, and she's got products now. If you're suffering from long COVID, she's got detox stuff, whole bunch of stuff that's way above my head. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be trying a lot. So everybody, we'll see you next week. If you enjoyed this video, remember to follow me on X at Lori Mills, 4CA42, Uncover Cali on Rumble, and Uncover California on YouTube.
California.